gift against Michael Bonde, who has top 8 at some of our events, has won, if memory serves, this old brain. I think he won an SCG Open a long time ago when he and his Danish pals were over here in the States. And he did just win recently a Red Bull Online Qualifier with Rakdos Sacrifice. I hope I got that right. Rakdos Sacrifice in Standard a couple of weeks ago. So he knows his way around a sacrifice strategy. He's got one here once again. He's playing Jund Sacrifice, a deck that you said you would play if you were in the trenches today.
I like it, and we saw Bonde, I think, in Standard run the Jund Sacrifice deck with the Citadels and so on to some success, I believe. So no stranger to this for sure, and showing what it can do in this format as well.
Well, we're underway here in game number 1 of our time-shifted match. Kavanagh again on Mono Black Gift. She's on the bottom. We've got Michael Bonde on the top. Blood Artiste alongside a Witch's Oven and a Cauldron Familiar. This game might be over fast. That's a heck of a combination of cards.
We got the whole motley crew in attendance here today.
I'm thinking back to some of the aristocrats from earlier in the last decade, and some of the Jund aristocrats, and some of those decks. When they were online and doing their thing, they were pretty good. But these are souped up versions of these decks. It feels like Cauldron Familiar plus Witch's Oven really needs no introduction. Priest of Forgotten Gods might be joining the fray here and turning on in just a moment. But these sacrifice strategies, if you're into building this house of cards, you've definitely got the tools to do so.
Yeah, no blister pods around these parts making up the numbers. You get to play all the cards you really want to here.
All right, Blood Artist, it is is a symmetrical effect, as it were. I suppose I could say. Blood Artist is going to work for both peoples. Well, excuse me, it's going to work on all creatures. So this is a good exchange, I have to imagine, for Michael. Going to sacrifice the Cauldron Familiar, get that back right away. So look at all these triggers from Blood Artist. All right, so now Priest is going to resolve. 2 black mana floating. This will be a Stitches Supplier, trigger, 3 cards headed to the graveyard, and now it'll be a Crypt Breaker. So, not a bad turn there for Kavanagh, but I don't think Michael seems to mind, because I have to imagine Michael doesn't feel like he really lost all that much. Here's another copy of Blood Artist.
That's going to make these priest activations real painful.
Yeah, now Priest looking really bad. Please continue.
If Carolyn draws a Gate to the Afterlife, then we get to claw some of that life back and activate it with the 2 mana that we get back from the priest. We have way more than 6 creatures, I think, at this point. But hold up, strike that, reverse it.
This is getting ugly. Here's a Priest of Forgotten Gods. Yeah, give me that. Let me do this. My goodness, is this game? Jeez, this game just over? Got 2 black floating now. How many Blood Artists does this guy play? Sacrifice that.
And now we can get the
cat
back. Oh jeez, this Michael Bonde is running away with this one.
This is the full runaway here. Here's Woe Strider. Make a goat. That's adorable. Here comes Crypt Breaker. Nobody cares. Do you want to block that with the cat? I think you might. You get your trigger from the cat. Yeah, you block there, because then that's more triggers from Blood Artist. Those things are just going to exchange. So that's 2 triggers.
Kavanagh already down to 4 life. Whew. I think the game is going to end on this turn cycle. Yeah, there's Witch's Oven.
Yeah,
any creature, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can't get the cat back just yet without losing the artist. But yeah, Kavanagh realizes, this is not enough. So a quick game on there going to Michael Bonde.
Okay, well, there's some sideboarding to be done here. One of the things that we think about when it comes to sacrifice mirrors, most recently, was the fact that if one player has a Mayhem Devil and the other doesn't, the person with the Mayhem Devil has a sizable advantage, right? Because it works for both players. You saw that with Blood Artist there, where one player having a Blood Artist as opposed to the other not, the sizable advantage that Michael was able to accrue, and Kavanagh was basically out of that game as soon as Blood Artist showed up on the second turn of the game.
And you see, Caroline knows what her plan is for this matchup. As soon as we got to sideboarding, 4 gate, 2 gift, 4 Stitches Supplier out of the deck, replaced with a different plan. And I think that's because, this is an open deck event. You look over at Bonde's deck with 4 Laydown in the Void in the sideboard, along with Magma Sprays, Vraska, Scrabbling Claws, even Reclamation Sage. Just sticking a gift in that context seems like an absolute pipe dream.
Yeah, it's not going to be about that in this game that we are about to play here. Can't really use your graveyard as an extension of your hand. So Carolyn Kavanagh going to get away from that right away. We're going to get ready here for game number 2. She will be on the play. Both these players getting ready to take a look at their opening hands. And this is one of those instances now, taking a look at Kavanagh's hand. That hand's totally fine. I think you're going to keep that basically every time. The question is that hand good enough in this kind of matchup? It's not the kind of hand that you can mulligan, and that hand looks very familiar to what we saw in the last game. Priest able to turn it on, Crypt Breaker, Woe Strider, all the other stuff, but I don't know if that kind of hand is just good enough in this matchup, and if it's not, that means the matchup's really bad.
Yeah, this is a great hand of magic cards, but what are we doing against a Mayhem Devil? What are we doing against any of these things that the Bonde can stitch together? Now, this is okay. I
love it. It's a free attack.
Oh, it sure is. I just love the idea of this 1/1 charging headfirst into a 1/2, and just give me a little tap on the way out.
Wait, that's my kind of magic right there. Vroom vroom, let's go. All right, let's finish off that priest. Goodbye.
Okay, that's a nice pickup too, and we can just play some Ghost Riders on successive turns here, and force Bonde to put something good together.
Well, the big question now is, does Bonde have something like a Mayhem Devil on the third turn of the game? Because it's going to have a sizable effect if it does. Woe Strider, still a totally fine card to play. I think Mayhem Devil would have been the best of the bunch if it were there, but this is totally fine. Looks like Carolyn's going to sacrifice this Go token. Let's do a little scrying, shall we? Leyline of the Void?
Little late.
Yeah, not so much. That's going to head to the bottom of the deck. Draw now will be the Swamp to cast Leyline, of course. That does not exist. We'll see what the follow-up play here is going to be.
Now at this point, if Caroline scries into another leyline, that's actually I can see her keeping that, right? That's it doesn't look so bad anymore.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that, actually. No one loves hard casting Leyline of the Void. You love to start the game with that for pretty obvious reasons. But I do think that this game has not gotten away from her enough that casting a Leyline actually seems like a totally reasonable thing to be doing. In the interim, here comes Fiend Artisan with a fun animation, and we're going to be heading back over to Michael Bonde.
I imagine planning to cash in one of those Woe Striders for a zombie token off Crypt Breaker?
I have to imagine that's the case. Get that Crypt Breaker engine online. Alright, Overgrown Tomb untapped, down to 14. What are we working with now, Michael?
I really want this to be some elaborate bluff.
You want this to be what?
I want this to be some elaborate collector company bluff, but
okay.
We all know what this actually means.
Yeah, I've the big Psy pass. I have nothing. It's your turn.
No, the best is the ostentatious side pass when you actually don't have it and you just level them into.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
Some big performance.
Never seen that happen before. They always have the collected company. I don't know what world you're living in there, bud.
It's an advanced technique, yeah, for sure.
I see. Please teach me your ways. Fiend Artisan's going to get its sacrifice on. We're going to get a Stitcher Supplier out of the deck. Trigger. Put some cards into the graveyard. Graveyard's online this game, so can't hurt to do so. Choose attackers? Well, nah. Okay. Probably smart not to attack. Here's Collected Company.
So this is a pivot point. And wow, we just missed entirely.
Wow. The Brian Gottlieb has occurred.
Yeah, an odd choice for Bonde to put that card in his deck, given that it just has literally no text. But who am I to question his methods?
Yeah, I don't think I would. If that card doesn't find anything, I wouldn't do that. But Michael is 4-1, and you and I are commentating on the tournament, so to each their own. I can't remember the last time I saw a Collected Company whiff. I really can't. It's been like years. Chupacabra on top. That's hard to say no to. All right, so Claim the Firstborn gets countered via the sacrificing of the creature was targeting. Here is Scrabbling Claws. These graveyard hate cards, I don't know if they're too late to the party, but they're not that effective because Carolyn actually has a pretty nice battlefield brewing here. Claws is going to get the opportunity to eat a swamp. Now we're going to cash it in. Take care of a Woe Strider, it looks like. Draw a new card. But this is an exceptionally weak turn here for Michael. Here's Castle Lockvein. We are going to tap a couple of zombies and peel a card. There's a Fiend Artisan.
That's a 6/6.
Yeah,
don't mind if I do.
That's a big one. Get that on the battlefield. Here comes Woe Strider. Well, you mentioned it right during the sideboarding, right? You said that Carolyn got a lot of the graveyard interaction cards out. The cards that are based around God-Pharaoh's Gift, or God-Pharaoh's Gift and Gate to the Afterlife and everything else. That stuff's gone. And now we're just playing a normal battlefield game, and thus far, working out very well.
Yeah, you think back a few turns when Bonde put Collected Company on the stack, Caroline must have been thinking, my tournament could end right here. This could just be it. And then seeing Bonde untap with no changes to the battlefield, saw a window to get back in it, and now Caroline's deck just firing on all cylinders.
There's a swamp. Haven't had to really use the Phyrexian Tower in a meaningful way here, but just generating card advantage via the Crypt Breaker. Crypt Breaker, of course. Okay. Well, I'm gonna stop myself right now and talk about a different card. That's what I'm gonna do. Hello. Whew. Yeah, there's no sense in playing this one out, Michael. You're not beating Massacre Worm. So, game 3, the place to be. Gate to the Afterlife. God Pharaoh's Gift still in the sideboard. You mentioned Citrus Suppliers hanging out on the board now, too. Looks like 2 main, 2 board here for Kavanagh. But wow, Massacre Worm, that's a 4 of, and a card that can really turn a game on its head.
Yeah, we've seen decks move towards maybe some different payoffs with Godfather's Gift. There was a mono black list that had Creative Behemoth just to one-shot them on the turn you gift, and you can debate those back and forth, but in a game state like this, where you can't really plan on resolving your gate, Creative Behemoth is uncastable in that spot, and Massacre Worm is the best 6-drop you could possibly ask for. This is your entire endgame now.
Yeah, it's a pretty darn good endgame. So, game 3, here we go. Both these players 4-1. I mean, essentially, top eight on the line here. Whoever loses this one, no longer top 8 eligible. Winner, we'll see. May have to draw or play or blah, blah, blah. Who knows? But loser, no longer going to be top 8 eligible, almost assuredly. So, 2 great players doing battle here in the penultimate round of our Swiss, and a very important one.
Do you know how many players we have in our event today? Are we looking at maybe an X&2 sneaking in?
How dare you ask me a question I should know the answer to that I don't know the answer to? Just how could you do that?
So it sounds like we had 127 qualified, which is just below the cusp for an additional round. So at that point, no X&2s even coming close. They can get out of the building. But
there we go.
Not sure how many people actually showed up this morning. So we'll get you that as and when we have it.
Well, you got a mulligan here very quickly. Massacre Worm, yeah, that's a good place for that to go. And then Kavanagh's playing,
Yeah, see, I should have said this before the leyline came down and would have sounded a lot smarter. I wonder if, even with this kind of low resource start, maybe it's worth keeping the worm just because facing down a leyline, that is your best possible plan, just to build towards that. And yeah, look at this though. Turn 1 Crypt Breaker into turn 2 Last Set Reaver, threatening an immediate activation, but Bonde has the Magma Spray to kill the Crypt Breaker. Yeah,
that's a really good thing Michael did too, because now Caroline's hand kind of falls apart, and Mayhem Devil's not making things look any easier. Citrus Supplier, less than ideal. So this was a hand that was really based on Crypt Breaker staying on the battlefield, and if it had stayed on the battlefield, this would have been, I think, a really close and competitive game. Not saying this one's over yet, but I think bad news ahead. Well, Collected Company has a history of missing here from Michael.
I mean,
it wasn't great there.
No, I think it may be enough the way this game is shaping up, though.
Massacre Worm, the draw, only 2 lands. You find a 3rd land. Will Strider can help you find lands, ideally 4, 5, and 6, to be able to get to that Massacre Worm, which can be a game winner all by itself. Reclamation Sage looking embarrassing, frankly. There's a Fiend Artisan. Also looking embarrassing.
Yeah, that's saying a 1-1. Now, that can find a Crypt Breaker to kind of restart that chain going again.
Ooh, very good point. Okay.
But then we lose something to the Mayhem Devil, so it's not free by any means.
But we could argue it very well could be worth it.
That Blood Artist also not combining so well with the Leyline of the Void either, where now nothing on Caroline's side is going to die. And so we're not getting any triggers from that. We don't have a sacrifice outlet currently. So actually, maybe this game is more competitive than we're giving it credit for.
Okay, so we're going to take a Fiend Artist and we're going to sacrifice Reclamation Stage, trigger the Blood Artist. So what are we going to get now, I think, is the question. This is kind of a cute interaction. Mayhem Devil's going to trigger, take care of the Citrus Supplier. All right, there will be no Blood Artist trigger or Citrus Supplier trigger. Now here's a Woe Strider. Trigger there, make a goat. Okay.
Well, there's our sack outlet.
Yeah, that's a good turn. Here comes Mayhem Devil. You're not going to be able to make any meaningful blocks on this card because the Woe Strider can kind of really control combat. So Citrus Supplier is going to jump in front of the Mayhem Devil. 1 damage on that. Sacrifice the Fiend Artist and trigger the Mayhem Devil. Maybe clean up the army token, perhaps. Yep, take care of that. Blood Artist will trigger. Cool. Top card goes to the bottom with the Scry. I think I know who's favored here because that 3rd land showed up a little bit too late there, folks.
Yeah, if we were casting a Chupacabra this turn, taking care of the Mayhem Devil, maybe we could stitch something together, but as it is, Bonde seems like he has full control of this game.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Only one card left here in Michael's hand, but he doesn't really need a ton of cards. And he does have some control over what he is drawing. So 2 triggers again, one from the Blood Artist, one from the Mayhem Devil. Looks like we're going to try to take care of the goat. We're going to sacrifice that goat token in response. Trigger on the stack. Blood Artist. Blood Artist does have a favorable interaction with the opponent's tokens when Leyline of the Void is on the battlefield, but not so much actual cards. Fiend Artisan is the top card. That's going to become the bottom card. That one's not so good. I think we're just on the hunt for lands right now. So you see triggers aplenty. Top card going to go to the bottom there for Michael. He'll draw a mystery card. Again, we don't see Michael's hand. We only see Caroline's here on this side. And, well, yeah. That's a good one. Here come the Knuckleheads.
Normal frame Roast Rider teaming up with the extended art Roast Rider here.
It's all deadly. Of course, going to sacrifice that Roast Rider that was just taken by claiming the Firstborn. More triggers, of course, and this is an easy way to do it too. Here is a copy of Witch's Oven. No Cauldron Familiar here just yet, but I wouldn't say that's necessary to win this one. Triggers, one from Mayhem Devil, one from Blood Artist. Actually, not one from Blood Artist, just from the Devil, excuse me, because of the ley line. Top card is going to stay on top. Oh, look at that one.
That ain't
it. Oh, you sure?
I mean, after last round, I don't want to count anyone out. But...
That's fair. That's fair. Last step, Reavers in the house. Here's a Roast Rider. Going to bring a goat along with it. But I think I'll leave you another turn or two here before we are announcing Michael Bonde, the winner, who has put together a really nice hand. And Dom, this is actually, again, you're kind of coming full circle on this a little bit, as it looks like a Roast Rider is going to be played here. This is what you talked about with the sacrifice decks, but kind of the graveyard decks in general, of which there are plenty of in this format. Cards like Grafdigger's Cage, Leyline of the Void, Rest in Peace, they're becoming ubiquitous across Historic.
Yeah, there may be a point where if these sacrifice decks fall off and then it no longer makes sense to have those cards in your sideboard over other things, then you might get this cyclical thing where these decks come back in force on a weekend where players are prepared. But for now, these decks are on people's radar and they are adjusting accordingly. And if you think you can fight through that, whether it's through some kind of transformational thing or maybe